I mean, I feel like they would feel like they don't know how to handle a large aspect of their body, and so they might feel out of control.
It creates this even further psychological damage from poverty and this even further issue where people feel as though they can't even control the basic needs and aspects of their life to a point where it can lead to other problems. And I think the next part of that is, and that just leads to even further stigmatization and even further feeling that this has to be something kind of hidden away or not talked about because it is something shameful. And then I think the second part of that is something very medical, where we see time and time again that this lack of period access can result in things like infections or unsafe practices around periods. And then because of that because our education around periods is so much based in the home, that trickles down to more generations. And it becomes this kind of never-ending cycle of medical problems. And then I think sort of the last aspect is something educational and career-based, where people don't have access to menstrual hygiene products. And so what we see is that then people are can miss class time because of it, or people will not go to work because of it. And so what that then results in is that we see that people are not able to procure an education or procure career success, and that creates socioeconomic inequality as well.
So the effects of period poverty can be devastating. I think it depends actually on, what sort of environment you're living in. So if we're talking about a third world country where menstrual products in general are not very available, and only, I would say, the sort of highest class in society has access to pads and tampons and single-use products, then the norm is not to have and to use those types of products. The norm is to find a means by which you can manage your period. And there have been articles that are out there, I'm not sure if they're scientific or research-based, but I know that I've read things where in third world countries, people are actually more interested in using reusable products like menstrual cups and reusable pads for sure. Some sort of means by which the blood can be caught and absorbed and then eventually washed out. Of course, that requires a little bit more work when thinking from a perspective of a first world country like ours in the US, where the norm is that to manage your menstrual health and hygiene, you are using pads and tampons. That is the bottom line. There are really no alternatives because that's how we've been educated. And because we live in a society where those things are very accessible in that you see them everywhere and you see them in department stores, you see them in convenience stores, you see them everywhere. And that is the only means that media displays as a way to manage your period. And so people who are coming from lower socioeconomic statuses also think that they need to use only those products. And then they scramble and have to use those kinds of products, or they end up using substitutes that are very dangerous. So some substitutes that might be used are things like socks and sponges and plastic bags even. And these kinds of things are often not very sanitary. Plastic bags, we don't know where they've been used. They're used to carry groceries maybe. But then later on, they hold more dirty things that are not sanitized, and then they're being used to, intimately be in interaction with your private parts, which is, mucosal membrane, and it's also an opening to your body. And if any sort of dangerous bacteria and microbes and kind of dangerous materials get into that part of your body, you are at risk of contracting a plethora of very dangerous diseases, and at risk for infections and toxic shock syndrome and many more other things. And so period poverty for low-income menstruators can be terrifying if not equipped with the right knowledge and not equipped with a way to manage periods. And so because period products are so expensive, low-income menstruating folks are resorting to alternatives that are not at all good for their health. And in those situations, we need to be cognizant of the risks and try to use that as a means to push for making period products more accessible, available, and affordable.